Hey guys, tonight we are stepping through the glass door of something that does not quite exist anymore, not in the same way. We are talking about a 1950s fast food restaurant, the kind of place where the fries were hand-cut, the burgers were flipped by people who knew your name, and the whole experience felt less like a transaction and more like a small, reliable ritual. These places had personality. They had chrome. They had uniforms starched so crisp they could stand on their own. And they had a rhythm, an unhurried hum of ordinary life unfolding one milkshake at a time. Before we step inside, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if this kind of thing speaks to you. And a big thank you to the person who suggested this topic. Your ideas shape this channel more than you know, and I am grateful for every single one. Drop a comment and let me know where you are listening from, what you had for dinner tonight, or what your favorite childhood restaurant memory is. I bet someone out there is eating cold pizza at midnight and calling it self-care. I respect that deeply. Now dim the lights if you can. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft white noise and settle in. Get comfortable, like you are about to fall asleep but do not actually want to miss anything comfortable. Because tonight we are stepping back into a world where fast food was still figuring out what it wanted to be. A world where you could sit at a counter, order a cheeseburger for 35 cents, and actually taste the beef. Where the jukebox played songs you knew by heart, where teenagers wore poodle skirts and cuffed jeans, and where the whole restaurant smelled like grilled onions, fresh coffee, and something close to hope. Have you ever wondered what it really felt like to walk into one of those places? Not the Instagram version, not the retro theme park recreation, but the real thing. What did the vinyl booth feel like under your legs on a hot summer day? What did the counterman say when you walked in for the third time that week? Did the root beer float taste different when it came in a frosted glass mug? How loud was the sizzle of the griddle? How bright were the neon signs against the evening sky? And could you survive an entire Saturday afternoon in a booth with your friends, sharing one order of fries and refilling your Coke 3 times without anyone asking you to leave? Well, congratulations. You have just walked into a 1955 burger joint. The jukebox is playing something by Chuck Berry. The smell of charbroiled beef hangs in the air like a warm, greasy blessing. A waitress in a paper hat smiles as you sit down. And the whole world for the next hour or so feels small, safe, and wonderfully uncomplicated. You see it from the street first, glowing like a tiny spaceship that landed in the middle of town and decided to sell hamburgers. The neon sign buzzes softly, spelling out the restaurant's name in looping cursive letters, bright pink against the deepening twilight. Below it, smaller neon tubes blink promises: open, burgers, cold drinks, ice cream. The glass windows stretch wide across the front, clean and shining, offering a perfect view inside where you can already see the counter, the stools, the people leaning in with elbows on formica. The building itself sits on the corner like it has always been there, even though it probably opened last year or the year before. The architecture is clean and modern in that optimistic 1950s way, all straight lines and chrome accents and big plate glass windows that refuse to hide anything. The roof might have a slight slope, or maybe it is flat with a decorative overhang, but either way it looks streamlined, efficient, like it was designed by someone who believed the future would be bright and geometric and full of reasonably priced hamburgers. The parking lot wraps around the side, small but neatly paved, with white lines painted to mark each space. A few cars are already there, big rounded sedans in colours like seafoam green and powder blue, their chrome bumpers catching the last of the daylight. Someone has parked a motorcycle near the entrance, a Harley or a Triumph, leaning on its kickstand with a kind of casual confidence that makes you wonder who owns it. As you get closer, you notice the details. The door handle is chrome, polished smooth by thousands of hands pushing through. The windows have decals, advertising specials, hand-lettered in that same cheerful cursive. Malt of the month, strawberry. Try our famous chili. The glass is spotless, wiped down multiple times a day by someone who takes pride in keeping things clean, and through it you can see the whole interior laid out like a stage set. waiting for you to step inside and become part of the scene. The neon hums, a low electrical vibration that you feel as much as hear, and it casts its glow across the sidewalk in pools of pink and blue and warm amber. In the daytime, the sign looks almost plain, just glass tubes and metal brackets, but now, as the sun dips below the horizon and the sky shifts from orange to purple to deep blue, the neon comes alive. It transforms the building into something magical, a beacon, a promise that inside there is warmth and food and company, that you are welcome here, that this place exists for you. You stand on the sidewalk for a moment, taking it in. Cars pass behind you, their headlights sweeping across the pavement. Somewhere down the street a dog barks. The air smells faintly of summer, of cut grass and exhaust and the distant sweetness of honeysuckle blooming in someone's yard. But mostly it smells like the restaurant, that unmistakable aroma of grilled beef and fried potatoes drifting out every time the door swings open. The sign buzzes, the windows glow, the door waits, and you step forward, reaching for the chrome handle, ready to walk into a world that feels both brand new and comfortingly familiar, a place where the 1950s are still happening, one burger at a time. The door swings open with a gentle chime, a soft little bell that announces your arrival to exactly no one, because everyone inside is already absorbed in their own small rituals. The air hits you immediately, warm, thick with the smell of beef on the grill, onions caramelizing, coffee brewing in a pot that has been on since dawn. It is the kind of smell that wraps around you like a flannel blanket, familiar and comforting even if you have never been here before. Your shoes make a soft sound on the tile floor, black and white checks arranged in a pattern that seems to stretch endlessly toward the back of the restaurant. The floor is clean but not pristine, showing the gentle wear of thousands of footsteps, the daily traffic of a neighborhood moving through its routines. Someone has mopped recently, you can tell by the faint, damp smell underneath all the food aromas, and the tiles gleam under the fluorescent lights overhead. The door closes behind you with a pneumatic sigh, the kind of slow, cushioned closing that prevents slamming, and suddenly you are fully inside, fully committed to being here. The temperature is a few degrees warmer than outside, kept that way by the grill running constantly, by the bodies moving around, by the sheer accumulated heat of a business in full operation. It is not uncomfortable, just noticeably warmer, and it makes the space feel alive, inhabited, actively working. You pause just inside the entrance, getting your bearings, and the restaurant reveals itself to you in layers. First the counter, running along the left side, chrome-edged and gleaming. Then the booths along the windows to your right, red vinyl catching the light. The grill area behind the counter, visible and open, the cook working with his back partially turned. The jukebox in the far corner, glowing like a small shrine. The ceiling, white acoustic tiles with recessed lighting, practical and unadorned. The sounds layer over each other in a way that should be chaotic, but somehow is not. The sizzle of the grill, constant and rhythmic. The murmur of conversations, a dozen different discussions happening at once, but none of them loud enough to dominate. The clink of dishes being cleared, plates stacked, glasses gathered. The hiss of the soda fountain as someone pulls the lever for a Coke. The jukebox between songs, that brief mechanical pause before the next record drops and the music starts again. You can see people noticing you, quick glances that register your presence without making a big deal of it. The counterman looks up from wiping down a section of formica and gives a small nod, acknowledging that he has seen you, that you are welcome, that he will be with you in a moment. A couple in the nearest booth glances over, then returns to their conversation. A teenager at the counter spins slowly on his stool, bored, watching you with the mild interest of someone who has been here too long and welcomes any distraction. The warmth settles around you. The smell becomes less intense as your nose adjusts, shifting from overwhelming to simply present, a constant background note. You take a breath, feeling the restaurant's rhythm begin to sync with your own, and you realize that stepping through this door was not just a physical transition from outside to inside. It was a shift in time, in pace, in expectation. Out there, the world moves at whatever speed the world moves. In here, Things happen at the speed of a burger being grilled, a malt being mixed, a conversation unfolding across a formica counter. The bell above the door chimes again as someone else enters behind you, and you step forward, moving deeper into the restaurant, ready to find your place in this warm, humming, perfectly ordinary scene. The counter runs the length of the restaurant, a long, gleaming strip of chrome-edged formica in a color that can only be described as optimistic turquoise. The stools are bolted to the floor, round red vinyl cushions perched on polished metal stems, and they swivel when you sit down with a satisfying little squeak. You take your seat and spin once, twice, just because you can, and the counterman glances over with a grin that says he has seen this exact move 1,000 times. The stool settles under your weight with a gentle compression, the vinyl slightly warm from whoever sat here before you, or maybe just from existing in this heated space all day. The cushion is firm enough to provide support but soft enough to be comfortable, and you find yourself shifting slightly, finding that perfect balance point where you can sit for the next hour without thinking about your posture. The counter itself is smooth under your forearms when you lean forward, the formica cool and solid, its surface marked by the faintest pattern of tiny scratches that catch the light when you tilt your head. These are not damage, exactly, just the accumulated evidence of years of use, of plates sliding across, of elbows resting, of napkin dispensers being pushed back and forth. Near your left elbow, someone has carved initials into the chrome edging, tiny letters worked carefully into the metal, J, R, plus M, K. 1954. You run your finger over them, feeling the slight indentation, wondering if J, R, and MK are still together, if they still come here, if they ever notice their mark when they sit down. The stools are spaced evenly, close enough that you could talk to your neighbor if you wanted, but far enough apart that you do not have to. 2 seats down, a man in a work shirt reads the newspaper folded into quarters, one hand wrapped around a coffee cup, the other holding the paper steady. He turns a page without looking up. His coffee steams gently. He has probably been here since 6:30, nursing the same cup, reading the same paper, existing in that peaceful morning routine that requires no acknowledgement from anyone else. To your right, a woman perches on her stool with her purse in her lap, waiting for a to-go order. She checks her watch, glances toward the grill, checks her watch again. Her heels dangle a few inches off the floor, the stool slightly too high for her, and she braces one foot against the chrome footrest that circles the base. The metal is slightly scuffed where thousands of shoes have rested, the shine worn down to a softer gleam. You spin the stool again, slower this time, watching the restaurant rotate around you. The booths along the windows, the door to the kitchen, the jukebox, the couple sharing a malt. The cook flipping burgers. All of it passes in a gentle arc, the world moving while you stay still, and when you complete the rotation you are facing the counter again, facing the napkin dispenser and the salt and pepper shakers, and the chrome rack holding the sugar dispenser and the ketchup and mustard bottles. Everything on the counter is within easy reach, arranged with the kind of thoughtless efficiency that comes from years of practice. The napkin dispenser is heavy chrome, its weight keeping it from sliding when you pull a napkin free. The salt and pepper shakers are glass with metal tops, the salt pure white, the pepper flecked with black and grey. Someone has unscrewed the caps and filled them recently, the grains visible through the glass, fresh and dry. The counterman approaches with a menu, though you suspect you do not really need it, because the menu here is probably the same as every other place like this. Burgers, fries, malts, pie. He slides it across to you with a practiced motion, the laminated card making a soft sliding sound against the formica, and you pick it up, feeling its slight stickiness, the residue of syrup or soda or the accumulated touch of hundreds of hands before yours. The stool squeaks slightly when you shift your weight, the counter is cool under your arms, the restaurant hums around you, and for this moment, sitting on this red vinyl cushion at this turquoise counter, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. He stands behind the counter with the easy confidence of someone who knows every inch of his workspace by heart. His paper hat sits at a jaunty angle, his apron is splattered with grease stains that tell the story of his shift, and his hands move with practiced efficiency, flipping burgers, pouring coffee, wiping down the counter in smooth, economical motions. He knows your order before you say it, or at least he pretends to, which somehow feels even better. His name is probably Ed or Frank or Joe, something simple and solid, and he has been working this counter for 5 years, maybe 10, long enough that the rhythm of the work has become second nature. He does not think about what he is doing anymore, does not plan his movements. His body simply knows: reach for the coffee pot, tilt it at just the right angle, pour until the cup is 3/4 full, set it down without spilling a drop. Grab the rag from under the counter, wipe down a section of formica, fold the rag, tuck it back. Pull an order slip from the wheel, read it in a glance, translate the shorthand into action. He works in a space maybe 4 feet wide and 20 feet long, and within that space he is completely in control. The coffee pot lives here, on this burner, always full, always hot. The cups stack here, upside down to stay clean. The plates are here, warm from sitting near the grill. The silverware is wrapped in paper napkins, stacked in a plastic bin under the counter. He could find any of these things blindfolded, in the dark, half asleep, because he has reached for them 10,000 times. Behind him, the grill sizzles and pops, and he monitors it without looking, listening to the sound, judging by the smell how much longer the burgers need. He knows that the left side runs slightly hotter than the right, that the far corner is the coolest spot, perfect for keeping buns warm without toasting them. He knows which spatula is best for flipping, which one is best for scraping, and he uses them without thinking, his hand reaching for the right tool automatically. When he talks to you, he does not stop working. His hands keep moving, wiping, pouring, arranging, while his face turns toward you and his voice stays friendly but not overly familiar. "What can I get you?" he asks, though his pencil is already poised over his order pad, ready to write before you finish speaking. His handwriting is fast and illegible to anyone but him and the cook, a shorthand developed over years of taking orders. CB for cheeseburger, FF for fries, C for Coke. He remembers the regulars, the ones who come in every day or every week, and he greets them with the easy familiarity of repeated contact. "Morning, Bill," "Usual," and Bill nods. And the counterman is already moving, already pouring the coffee, already calling back to the cook, "One scrambled, bacon crisp." He does not write it down. He does not need to. There is a grace to his movements, a kind of blue-collar ballet that comes from doing the same thing over and over until it becomes not tedious but meditative. He is not bored. He is not checked out. He is present in his work, engaged in the small satisfactions of making things run smoothly, of keeping the counter clean, of getting orders out fast and correct, of pouring coffee before the cup goes empty. His apron ties in the back, double knotted so it stays secure through the whole shift. His paper hat is slightly ridiculous, a white rectangle folded into a boat shape, but he wears it without self-consciousness, because everyone wears one, because it is part of the uniform, because this is simply what you wear when you work behind a counter in 1955. His shoes are practical, rubber-soled, built for standing all day on tile floors, and they are spotlessly clean despite the grease and the spills and the constant motion. When your order is ready, he sets the plate in front of you with a small flourish, not dramatic, just a little extra care in the placement. The burger, centered on the plate, the fries arranged neatly beside it. He slides a napkin across, checks that your water glass is full, asks if you need anything else. His eyes are already scanning the counter, looking for the next thing that needs doing, but his attention is still on you, still making sure you have what you need. This is his domain, this counter, this space, this work, and he moves through it with the quiet confidence of someone who has found his place in the world and made peace with it. You look up at the menu, hand-painted letters on a board mounted above the grill. Prices chalked in beside each item like they might change tomorrow, but probably will not. Hamburger, 15 cents. Cheeseburger, 20 cents. Malt, 30 cents. French fries, 10 cents. The simplicity is startling, like looking at a recipe that assumes you already know how to cook. There are no meal deals, no combos, no upselling. Just food, plainly named, honestly priced. The board itself is black, or maybe dark green, the kind of surface that holds chalk well and wipes clean with a damp rag. The lettering is careful, done by someone with a steady hand and an eye for spacing, each word lined up neatly under the one above it. The prices are written in slightly different handwriting, probably added by the manager at the start of the week, or maybe they have been there for months, unchanged, reliable as the sunrise. You read through the offerings, which do not take long because there are maybe 15 items total. Hamburger, cheeseburger, hot dog, grilled cheese, tuna salad sandwich. Each one sits on its own line, no descriptions, no adjectives, no promises about being flame-grilled or made with secret sauce or prepared fresh to order. It is understood that the hamburger is a hamburger, that it will come on a bun with standard toppings, that it will taste like a hamburger should taste. No further explanation is necessary. The sides are their own section: French fries, onion rings, coleslaw, cottage cheese. Again, no elaboration. The fries are not hand-cut or seasoned with special spices or served with aioli. They are French fries, and if you want them, they cost 10 cents, and that is the beginning and end of the transaction. The beverages run down the right side of the board. Coffee, 5 cents. Coke, cola, or root beer, 10 cents. Milk, 10 cents. Malted milk, 30 cents. Milkshake, 25 cents. The prices stack in your mind, and you realize you could eat a full meal here, burger and fries and a Coke, for 35 cents. Less than half a dollar. Less than the cost of a magazine. It is not that food is cheap, exactly. It is that money works differently, that 50 cents in your pocket feels substantial, that you can walk in here with $1 and walk out full and still have change. Below the main items, written in slightly smaller letters, are the specials. Meatloaf plate with mashed potatoes and gravy, 60 cents. Chicken fried steak, 75 cents. Liver and onions, 50 cents. These are Thursday items, or Wednesday, the kind of thing that gets made in the kitchen and served on real plates instead of in baskets. And they come with a vegetable and a roll and feel like dinner instead of just a meal. The desserts are listed at the bottom. Pie, 15 cents. Pie a la mode, 25 cents. Ice cream, 15 cents. The pie flavors are not specified, you have to ask, but you already know what they will be. Apple, cherry, maybe lemon meringue if you are lucky. The ice cream is vanilla or possibly chocolate, and it comes in a small glass dish with a long spoon and tastes cold and sweet and perfect. There are no pictures on this menu, no glossy photographs of burgers glistening under studio lights, no carefully styled arrangements of fries and condiments. There is no need. Everyone knows what a hamburger looks like. Everyone knows what fries are. The food does not need to be sold, it only needs to be listed, and the menu does that job with a kind of elegant efficiency that feels almost quaint now, almost naive, as if the restaurant genuinely believes that putting the word hamburger on a board and charging 15 cents is all the marketing required. You scan the board one more time, mentally assembling your order, calculating the total in your head. Cheeseburger, fries, Coke, 40 cents. You have 2 quarters in your pocket. You are good. The counterman notices you looking and raises his eyebrows in a silent question. You are ready. You point to the board, to the word cheeseburger, and he nods, already writing it down, already setting the order in motion. The board stays where it is, unchanging, patient, waiting for the next person to look up and decide what they want from the limited but entirely sufficient selection it offers. If you are here with friends, you head to the booths, those red vinyl banquettes that line the windows like plush little caves. The cushions are firm but forgiving, slightly warm from the afternoon sun that streamed through the glass all day. You slide in, your friends pile in across from you, and suddenly the booth feels like its own small world, separate from the rest of the restaurant, intimate and conspiratorial. The vinyl squeaks slightly as you settle into place, that distinctive sound of body weight pressing against plastic upholstery, and you shift until you find the spot that feels right. The backrest slopes at a gentle angle, designed more for sitting upright than lounging, and you lean back with your shoulders against the cushion, your feet flat on the floor or maybe stretched out under the table if you are tall enough. The table between you is Formica, the same turquoise as the counter, trimmed with a band of chrome that has been worn smooth by thousands of hands gripping the edge. The surface is clean but not flawless, marked with the faintest rings where cold glasses have sweated, with tiny scratches where plates have been set down over and over, with the subtle evidence of use that gives the table character instead of making it look shabby. Against the wall, tucked into a small chrome holder, is the Jukebox selector, a miniature version of the big machine in the corner. You can flip through the songs without getting up, reading the titles printed on the little cards, deciding whether it is worth a nickel to hear Elvis or Buddy Holly or the Platters right now. Your friend reaches over and flips through, humming, considering, then decides to save the nickel for later. The songs playing in the background are good enough for now. The window beside you frames the world outside like a movie screen. You can see the parking lot, the street beyond, cars passing, people walking by. The glass is clean and clear, washed this morning probably, and through it the evening light comes in golden and warm, making everything inside the booth glow slightly, softening the edges. If you are here in the late afternoon, the sun hits the table directly, and you have to shift to avoid the glare. But mostly you do not mind, because the warmth feels good, because it makes the booth feel even more like a refuge. The condiments live on the table in a small cluster near the wall, ketchup and mustard in glass bottles, salt and pepper shakers, a napkin dispenser made of chrome and red plastic. Everything is within reach, nothing needs to be asked for, and there is something comforting about that self-sufficiency, about having what you need right there in front of you. Your friends settle in across from you, 3 of them squeezed onto the opposite bench, laughing about something that happened at school or at work or on the way here. Someone's elbow jostles the table slightly and the salt shaker tips over, and there is a brief moment of mock panic before it is righted, no harm done. The conversation flows easily, layered over the background noise of the restaurant, and you realize that this booth creates a kind of acoustic bubble, a space where you can talk without shouting but also without being overheard, where your voices blend with all the other voices but still remain distinct, private, yours. The vinyl is cool where it has been in shadow, warm where the sun has touched it, and you run your hand over the surface idly, feeling the texture, the slight grain of the material. There is a small tear near the edge of the seat, maybe 2 inches long, repaired with a patch of matching red vinyl that does not quite match, and you pick at it absently while you talk, your fingers finding it without looking. The booth holds you and your friends like a nest, like a small safe place carved out of the larger world, and for the next hour or so, this is your headquarters, your territory, your spot. The waitress will come by with menus, will take your order, will bring your food, but mostly she will leave you alone, will let you sit and talk and laugh and exist in this space that feels both public and private, both open and enclosed. Outside, the world keeps moving, cars pass, people walk by, the sun continues its slow descent toward the horizon. But inside this booth, time slows down just a little, stretches out, becomes something you can inhabit fully, without worrying about what comes next. Someone tells a joke, someone else laughs so hard they snort. The table shakes, the ketchup bottle wobbles, the vinyl squeaks, and this, right here, is exactly where you want to be. It stands in the corner like a glowing altar to teenage independence, all chrome and coloured glass, lit from within by warm bulbs that make the song titles shimmer. Someone feeds it a nickel and punches the buttons with the deliberate care of someone making an important decision. A moment later, the restaurant fills with music, something upbeat and rebellious, and suddenly everyone in the room feels a little younger, a little more alive. The jukebox is a Wurlitzer, or maybe a Seeburg, one of those iconic machines that defined what a jukebox should look like. Rounded corners, Art Deco curves, glass panels lit in amber and red and blue. The metal parts are polished chrome, reflecting the restaurant lights in warped funhouse mirror versions. The whole thing stands about waist-high, solid and substantial, built to last through decades of nickels and teenage drama. The visible mechanism inside is part of the appeal. You can see the records stacked in their slots, black vinyl discs held in place by metal arms, and when someone makes a selection, you can watch the machine come to life. A mechanical arm slides sideways, finds the right record, lifts it gently from its slot, and places it on the turntable. The needle descends with precision. The record begins to spin. And then, after a brief crackle of anticipation, the music starts. The sound quality is not perfect. There is a slight hiss underneath the vocals, a warmth to the bass that comes from analog equipment, a presence in the music that feels physical, like the sound is coming from somewhere real instead of being piped in through hidden speakers. The jukebox has 2 speakers, one on each side, and the music emanates from them with enough volume to fill the restaurant without overwhelming conversation. Someone has been carefully curating the selection. The little cards visible through the glass list the current options: Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley, Fats Domino, Little Richard, The Platters, Doris Day, Perry Como, Patti Page. There is something for everyone, or at least something for everyone who exists in 1955, a mix of rock and roll and crooners and doo-wop and ballads. The cards are printed with the song titles and artist names in that distinctive jukebox font, clear and readable even in dim light. The buttons are arranged in rows, letters across and numbers down, so that each song has a code. B7 might be Rock Around the Clock. 3 might be K Sarah Sarah. You memorize your favorites if you come here often enough, know exactly which buttons to push without having to read the cards. And there is a certain pride in that, in being someone who knows the jukebox, who can walk up and punch in their song without hesitation. There is an etiquette to the jukebox, unwritten but universally understood. You do not play the same song twice in a row. You do not play something slow when the place is busy and energetic. You do not monopolize the machine, feeding in $1's worth of nickels and programming the next hour. You play one song, maybe 2 if you are feeling generous, and then you step back and let someone else have a turn. The teenagers have claimed the area around the jukebox as their territory. They lean against the wall nearby, talking, laughing, occasionally breaking into spontaneous dance moves when the right song comes on. A couple sways gently to a slow number, the boy's hand on the girl's waist, her head on his shoulder, moving in a tiny circle that barely qualifies as dancing but feels important nonetheless. When a particularly good song comes on, something with a driving beat and a catchy hook, the energy in the restaurant shifts. Conversations pause for a moment. People tap their feet. Someone at the counter drums their fingers on the formica in time with the music. The counterman grins and flips a burger with a little extra flourish. For 3 minutes, the jukebox is the center of everything, the heart of the room, the thing that pulls everyone together into a shared experience. Between songs, there is a brief silence, a mechanical pause while the jukebox readies the next selection. You can hear the click and whir of the mechanism, the record being returned to its slot, the new record being selected. It is a sound everyone in the restaurant recognizes, a signal that the music is about to continue, and there is always a moment of anticipation, wondering what will play next, hoping it is something good. The light inside the jukebox never dims. It glows constantly, casting colored shadows across the floor, turning the corner into a small sanctuary of music and light. Even when no one is playing anything, when the machine sits silent between selections, it remains lit, ready, waiting for the next nickel, the next song, the next moment when someone decides the restaurant needs music. And when that nickel drops, when those buttons are pushed, when the music fills the air once again, the jukebox fulfills its purpose completely. It transforms an ordinary moment into something memorable, something worth the 5 cents it cost. You catch the waitress's eye. She glides over with a notepad and a pencil tucked behind her ear, and you order the way people ordered back then, out loud, without staring at a screen or tapping an app. Cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke, you say, and she writes it down in shorthand you cannot read. tears the slip from her pad and clips it to a spinning wheel above the grill, where the cook plucks it without looking. The whole transaction takes maybe 20 seconds, but it feels important, substantial, like you have participated in something real rather than just clicked buttons on a device. You spoke. She listened. She wrote. The order now exists as a physical object, a piece of paper with your request written on it, moving through the system toward fulfillment. The waitress's uniform is crisp despite the heat, a short-sleeved dress in pink or mint green or maybe white with pink trim, belted at the waist, the skirt hitting just below her knees. She wears a small paper hat pinned to her hair, a little folded square that serves no practical purpose but completes the look, signals that she is on duty, part of the team. Her shoes are white, practical, rubber-soled, built for standing and walking all day on hard tile floors. Her name tag is pinned to her uniform, Betty, or Susan, or Jane, written in script on a small plastic rectangle. She's been working here for 2 years, maybe 3, long enough to know the menu by heart, to recognize the regulars, to develop a system for remembering orders. She does not write down every detail. If you order a cheeseburger, she assumes you want it dressed the standard way: lettuce, tomato, pickles, onion, ketchup, mustard. If you want something different, you have to specify: hold the onions, extra pickles, whatever your preference is, and she will make a note in her shorthand, a little mark that tells the cook to modify the usual preparation. Her notepad is small, spiral-bound at the top, the pages thin and slightly translucent from the pencil marks that have been erased and rewritten 1,000 times. She flips to a new page for each order, or maybe she fits 2 or 3 orders on a page, depending on how busy it is. The pencil behind her ear is worn down, sharpened so many times it is barely longer than her finger, and she pulls it out with a practiced motion, licking the tip slightly before writing, an old habit that somehow helps the graphite stick to the paper. When you finish telling her what you want, she repeats it back, a quick confirmation that she heard you correctly: cheeseburger, fries, Coke. Her voice is efficient but not unfriendly, the tone of someone who has said these words hundreds of times today but still treats each order as if it matters. You nod. She tears the slip from her pad with a clean downward motion, the perforations giving way with a satisfying rip. She turns toward the grill, reaches up, and clips the order slip to the wheel, a circular metal rack with clips all around the edge that rotates so the cook can grab orders from his side. The wheel spins slightly when she clips the paper on, and the cook, without turning around, reaches up and plucks your order, glances at it, and slides it into a slot where he can see it while he works. He does not acknowledge the waitress. She does not wait for acknowledgement. This is simply how the system works, refined over thousands of meals into a smooth, wordless choreography. The waitress turns back to you. "Anything else?" she asks, and you shake your head. She nods, tucks the pencil back behind her ear, and moves on to the next table where a family is still deciding, the kids pointing at menu items, the father trying to calculate the total cost in his head. You settle back into your seat, knowing that your order is now in motion, that somewhere behind the counter, the cook is already assembling the components, pulling a patty from the stack, slapping it onto the grill, setting a mental timer for when to flip it. In a few minutes, your food will arrive, prepared exactly as you requested, delivered by this same waitress who will set it in front of you with the same efficient competence she brings to every interaction. There is no order number to track, no screen updating your status, no app pinging you when your food is ready. You just wait, trusting the system, trusting that the slip of paper with your order written on it will translate into the meal you asked for, because that is how it works, how it has always worked, how it will keep working for as long as this restaurant exists. The wheel behind the counter spins slowly as the cook grabs another order. The waitress moves between tables with her notepad ready, and you sit, patient, hungry, content to let the process unfold at its own pace. From your seat at the counter, you can see everything. The cook works the flat-top grill like a conductor leading an orchestra, spatulas flashing, burgers sizzling, onions piled in neat little heaps, that he flips with a quick wrist motion that looks like magic. He does not measure anything, does not check a timer, just knows by instinct when the burger is ready, when the bun needs toasting, when the cheese is melted to exactly the right degree of gooey perfection. The grill is massive, maybe 4 feet wide and 3 feet deep, a thick slab of steel heated from below by gas flames that burn constantly, keeping the surface at a temperature the cook has memorized through touch and experience. The steel is dark in some places, lighter in others, seasoned by years of grease and use into a non-stick surface that requires no additional oil. The cook knows every inch of this grill, knows where the hot spots are, where things cook slower, where to place a burger if you want it well done versus medium. He works from left to right, a methodical system that keeps orders moving. Burgers start on the left side where the heat is most intense, getting a hard sear that locks in the juices. After a few minutes, he slides them to the center where they finish cooking more gently. When they are nearly done, he moves them to the right side where it is cooler, and that is where he adds the cheese, 1 slice per burger, laying it on carefully so it covers most of the patty. The cheese melts slowly in the residual heat, softening without burning, and by the time the bun is toasted and the toppings are ready, the cheese is perfect. The buns get toasted on a separate section of the grill, cut side down, pressed lightly with a spatula to ensure even contact with the hot steel. They take maybe 30 seconds, and the cook does not watch them continuously, just glances over every few seconds, checking the color, and when they are golden brown, he plucks them off with his bare fingers, which are apparently heat-proof, or maybe just so calloused from years of grill work that they no longer register pain the way normal fingers do. His spatulas are extension of his hands. He has 2, 1 in each hand, and he uses them constantly, flipping, scraping, moving food around, pressing down slightly on burgers to hear the satisfying sizzle that confirms they are cooking properly. The spatulas are thin metal, flexible, darkened with age and use, and he keeps them on the grill even when he is not using them, the heat keeping them sterile, ready. The onions are his signature move. He keeps a pile of sliced onions on one section of the grill, letting them caramelize slowly, stirring them every few minutes with a quick flip motion that sends them airborne for a split second before they land back on the steel in a slightly different configuration. It looks casual, almost playful, but it serves a purpose. Constant movement prevents burning, ensures even cooking, and the end result is a pile of sweet, golden brown onions that can be added to any burger on request. He does not talk much. Occasionally he calls out to the waitress, order up, or asks a clarifying question, you want that with or without cheese? But mostly he is silent, focused on the work, on the rhythm of cooking, on the dozen different tasks happening simultaneously. He is making your cheeseburger, but he is also making 3 other burgers, toasting 4 buns, grilling onions, watching the fries in the deep fryer, keeping an eye on a grilled cheese that is almost ready, and glancing at the order wheel to see what is coming next. The sounds he makes are part of the restaurant's soundtrack, the scrape of the spatula against steel, the sizzle when he flips a burger and the raw side hits the grill, the soft thunk when he presses down slightly, squeezing out excess moisture, the quick metallic ring when he taps the spatula against the edge of the grill to knock off the build-up. These sounds are constant, rhythmic, comforting in their predictability. His apron is stained with grease, his paper hat is slightly askew, and there is a sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the fan blowing nearby. This is hot work, physical work, and by the end of his shift he will have stood in front of this grill for 8 hours, flipping hundreds of burgers, toasting hundreds of buns, caramelizing pounds of onions. His feet will hurt, his back will ache. But right now, in the middle of the dinner rush, he is fully present, fully engaged, moving with the economy and grace of someone who has found the flow state in the repetitive, demanding work of cooking for strangers. Your burger is almost ready. He slides it to the final position, adds the cheese, checks the bun, assembles the ingredients in his mind. In 30 seconds, maybe a minute, he will hand the plate to the waitress and she will bring it to you. And you will eat something this man made with his hands and his skill, and his years of experience standing in front of a hot steel grill. He never looks at you directly, but you are grateful to him anyway. The noise is constant but never overwhelming, a layered hum of human activity that feels oddly soothing. The sizzle of the grill, the hiss of the soda fountain, the clink of silverware on plates. The murmur of conversations layering over each other like a gentle quilt of sound. Someone laughs. The jukebox shifts to a new song. The bell on the door chimes as someone new walks in. It all blends into a kind of music, the soundtrack of ordinary life happening in real time. If you close your eyes and just listen, you can separate the sounds into individual threads, each one distinct but part of the whole. The grill is the baseline, constant and low, that steady sizzle punctuated by the occasional louder pop when the cook flips something. The conversations are the melody, rising and falling, words blending together so you cannot quite make out what anyone is saying. But you can hear the tone, the rhythm, the emotional texture of people talking to each other. The dishes provide percussion. Plates stacked carefully by the waitress make a soft ceramic click. Silverware being set down on formica adds a light metallic note. Glasses being filled with ice make a rattling, tumbling sound. Cubes bouncing against glass, settling into place. When someone finishes eating and pushes their plate toward the edge of the counter, it scrapes slightly, a soft, shushing noise that signals completion. The soda fountain has its own vocabulary of sounds. The hiss when the lever is pulled and carbonated water mixes with syrup. The clink of ice being scooped from the bin. The fizz when the Coke is stirred with a spoon. These are precise, mechanical sounds, the noises of a device doing exactly what it was designed to do, and they repeat dozens of times an hour, a small, rhythmic pattern that becomes part of the background. The jukebox is the most obviously musical element, but it contributes more than just the songs it plays. There is the mechanical sound of the record changing, the click and whir of the selection mechanism, the brief scratch when the needle first touches the vinyl. Between songs, in those quiet moments, you can hear the jukebox more clearly, the internal workings that make the magic possible. The door chime is simple, just a small bell mounted above the frame, but it rings constantly, announcing arrivals and departures. Each chime is identical, but they feel different depending on context. The chime at 6 in the evening when the dinner rush is starting has a different quality than the chime at 9 o'clock when the restaurant is winding down. The bell does not change, but your perception of it does. Voices layer in complex ways. The couple in the booth near the window speaks softly, intimately, their words not meant for anyone else. The teenagers at the counter are louder, more animated, their laughter sharp and sudden. The family with small children creates a different kind of sound. The high voices of kids asking questions, the patient responses of parents, the occasional whine or cry quickly soothed. The counterman and the waitress call to each other in the efficient shorthand of co-workers, order up, and 2 burgers, no onions, and coffee refill on 3. There is the sound of eating itself, usually too quiet to notice individually but present in the aggregate. The crunch of someone biting into a pickle, the slurp of a milkshake through a straw, the satisfied sigh after a particularly good bite of burger. These are private sounds, not meant for public consumption, but in a restaurant they become part of the collective experience. A reminder that everyone here is engaged in the same fundamental act, the consumption of food, the satisfaction of hunger. The cash register adds its own notes. The bell when the drawer opens, the rattle of coins being counted out as change, the solid thunk when the drawer closes and locks. These sounds signal transaction, exchange, the completion of the business that keeps the restaurant running. Underneath everything, so constant you might not notice it, is the hum of machinery. The refrigerator behind the counter, keeping the milk cold and the ice cream frozen. The fan mounted on the wall, pushing air around, providing relief from the heat of the grill. The freezer in the back, rumbling quietly. These mechanical sounds create a foundation, a baseline of white noise that smooths out the sharper sounds and makes the whole acoustic environment feel cohesive instead of chaotic. And occasionally, cutting through everything else, comes a moment of pure sound, a dropped plate that crashes to the floor, silencing the whole restaurant for a split second before someone claps ironically and normal noise resumes, or a perfectly timed joke that makes a whole table erupt in laughter, or a song on the jukebox that everyone knows, causing scattered voices to sing along, tentative at first, then louder, more confident. The sound of this restaurant is the sound of community, of people existing together in a shared space, each pursuing their own small purpose but creating something larger through their collective presence. It is never silent, it is never too loud, it simply is a living acoustic environment that changes moment to moment while remaining fundamentally itself, recognizable, comforting, human. The waitress sets the plate in front of you with a practiced motion, and there it is, your cheeseburger, glistening slightly, the bun toasted golden, the cheese melted and draped over the edges like a blanket. The patty is hand-formed, irregular around the edges, charred in spots where it pressed against the hottest part of the grill. It smells like beef, onions, and something smoky you cannot quite name but will never forget. The plate is warm, which means it has been sitting near the grill, preheated so your food stays hot longer. It is white ceramic, heavy and solid, with a faint green stripe around the rim, and it feels substantial in a way that paper plates never will. The burger sits in the center, flanked by a small pile of fries and 2 pickle chips that lean against the bun like they are trying to get comfortable. You pause for a moment, just looking at it. This is not a carefully styled photograph meant to make you hungry. This is not a corporate product engineered in a test kitchen and replicated exactly in every location. This is a hamburger made by a person standing at a grill, assembled by hand, unique in its imperfections. The bun is slightly askew. The cheese has melted unevenly, pooling more on one side than the other. A bit of ketchup has leaked out and stained the bottom bun faintly red. It looks real, which is another way of saying it looks right. The heat rising from the plate carries the smell directly to your nose, and you breathe it in. Beef char, melted cheese, toasted bread, pickles, mustard, ketchup, all of it mixing into a single unified aroma that is simply burger, the platonic ideal of what a cheeseburger should smell like. Your mouth waters, your stomach reminds you that you are hungry. The burger waits. The bun has a slight sheen from butter, or maybe just from the grease that soaked up from the patty, and when you touch it lightly with your fingertip, it is warm and slightly soft, yielding to pressure but still holding its structure. The sesame seeds on top are toasted darker than the bun itself, little golden brown specks that add texture and a faint nutty flavor you will notice when you take the first bite. The cheese is American, that bright orange processed cheese that melts better than anything else, and it has softened into a smooth layer that clings to the burger and drapes over the sides, still warm enough that it moves slightly when you tilt the plate, viscous and glossy. A small rivulet of melted cheese has run down the side of the patty and pooled on the plate, and you know that at some point you will drag a fry through that pool, because wasting it would be criminal. The lettuce is visible at the edges, crisp and green, probably iceberg, shredded into thin strips. The tomato is a thick slice, red and juicy, tucked between the cheese and the lettuce so it does not slide out when you bite down. The pickles are dill, thin slices that add crunch and acidity, cutting through the richness of the beef and cheese. Somewhere in there is a thin layer of onion, raw and sharp, and probably a generous squirt of ketchup and mustard, though you cannot see them from this angle. The whole construction is maybe 4 inches tall, which means you will have to compress it slightly to get your mouth around it, and even then you will probably make a mess. The burger does not care. It sits on the plate, radiating heat and smell and possibility, completely unconcerned with whether you can eat it gracefully. It is food, honest and straightforward, and its only job is to taste good. You pick up the paper napkin the waitress left beside your plate and tuck it into your collar, or maybe just spread it across your lap, preparing for the inevitable drips and spills. The people around you are eating their own meals, engaged in their own small dramas. No one is watching. No one cares how you tackle this burger. You reach forward, your hands know what to do, and the moment has arrived. You lift the burger, feel its weight, its warmth, the way the bun compresses slightly under your fingers. You take a bite and the flavors hit you all at once. The beef, rich and salty, the cheese, tangy and smooth, the pickles, sharp and bright, the ketchup and mustard blending into something that tastes like summer evenings and Saturday afternoons. This is not gourmet. This is not fancy. This is just a cheeseburger, but it is perfect in its simplicity, honest in its construction. Your teeth break through the toasted bun first, that slight resistance before it gives way, and then you hit the layers. Lettuce with its cool crunch, tomato releasing a little burst of juice, the pickle providing a sharp, acidic note that makes your taste buds wake up and pay attention. Then comes the cheese, warm and creamy, coating your tongue, followed immediately by the beef itself, charred on the outside, juicy inside, seasoned with just salt and pepper, but tasting complex because of the char, the grease, the way it was cooked on a grill that has cooked 10,000 burgers before this one. The mustard and ketchup blend together in the back of your mouth, sweet and tangy, and you realize that whoever made this burger was generous with both. Not stingy, not measured. Just a good solid squirt of each that soaks into the bottom bun and mingles with the beef drippings. The onion is there too, raw and sharp, providing a little bit of bite that balances the richness of everything else. You chew slowly, letting the flavors develop, and it occurs to you that this might be the best thing you have tasted all week. Not because it is complicated or sophisticated, but because it is exactly what it is supposed to be, without pretension or apology. The beef tastes like beef. The cheese tastes like cheese. Everything works together in a way that feels natural, intuitive, like these ingredients were always meant to be combined in exactly this configuration. The temperature is perfect. Still hot from the grill, but not so hot that you burn your mouth. The cheese is melted, but not molten. The bun is warm and soft, but toasted enough to provide structure. Someone timed this perfectly, cooked it exactly right, assembled it with care even though they were probably making 5 other burgers at the same time. You swallow that first bite and immediately want another. Your hands are already moving, lifting the burger again, your mouth already anticipating the next combination of flavors. A bit of juice runs down your chin and you wipe it with the napkin, completely unself-conscious, because everyone eating a burger makes this same motion, this same acknowledgement that some foods are meant to be messy. The second bite is different because you angle it slightly, catching more pickle this time, less tomato, and the flavor balance shifts, becomes a little more acidic, a little less sweet. The burger is not uniform, which means every bite is slightly different, a new experience, a new combination of ratios and textures. This is part of the appeal, part of what makes eating a hamburger an active experience rather than a passive one. You are not just consuming, you are engaging, discovering, adjusting your approach bite by bite. You set the burger down for a moment, letting yourself pause, and you notice your fingers are shiny with grease, the paper napkin already stained. You take a sip of your Coke, the cold carbonation cutting through the richness, cleansing your palate, preparing you for the next round. The sweetness of the Coke somehow makes the savory flavors of the burger even more pronounced when you return to it. Looking down, you see that your first 2 bites have created a small crescent-shaped gap in the burger. Cheese is starting to ooze out the sides. A bit of tomato has slipped and is threatening to slide out entirely. The structural integrity of the burger is beginning to fail, which is normal, expected, part of the journey. By the last bite, this burger will be a glorified mess, held together by willpower and the pressure of your hands. But right now it is still mostly intact, still holding its shape. You lift it again. 3rd bite. The beef is saltier this time, or maybe you are just noticing it more. The char on the outside adds a slight bitterness that is not unpleasant, just different, a counterpoint to all the sweetness and richness. Your jaw works steadily, methodically, breaking everything down, mixing it all together, extracting every bit of flavor. This is what a hamburger is supposed to taste like. This is what you came here for, and it does not disappoint. They arrive in a red plastic basket, piled high and steaming, golden and irregular because they were cut by hand this morning. You pick one up, still hot enough to make you shift it between your fingers, and bite down. The outside is crisp, the inside fluffy and soft, and they are salted just enough to make you reach for your Coke. These are not frozen fries reheated under a heat lamp. These are real potatoes, fried fresh, served immediately. The basket is lined with a sheet of waxed paper, already starting to go translucent from the grease, and the fries are piled in what appears to be a completely random arrangement but somehow manages to look appealing anyway. Some fries are long and thin, almost matchstick-sized. Others are thick and substantial, more like wedges. A few are mostly just crispy edges, those irregular bits that broke off during cutting and fried up into crunchy, salty shards of potato heaven. The colour varies too, because these were not engineered for uniformity. Most are golden brown, but some have darker spots where they touch the bottom of the fryer basket, and a few are paler, almost blonde, fried at a slightly lower temperature or for a slightly shorter time. The variation does not matter. Every single one tastes good. You eat one, then immediately reach for another. The rhythm establishes itself quickly. Pick up fry, eat fry, repeat. Some you eat whole, shoving the entire length into your mouth and biting down. Others you bite in half, savouring them in stages. The thick ones require more chewing, the inside soft and potatoey, almost creamy. The thin ones are mostly crunch, more texture than substance, but satisfying in their own way. The salt clings to the outside in visible crystals, and you can feel the grains on your tongue, tiny explosions of sodium that make your mouth water and your taste buds sing. Whoever salted these did not hold back, did not worry about health recommendations or dietary guidelines. They salted them the way fries are meant to be salted, generously, confidently, with the understanding that undersalted fries are a betrayal of the form. The grease is ever present. It shines on the surface of each fry, coats your fingers after you have eaten a few, leaves a slick on your lips that you lick away between bites. This is not the neutral processed oil of modern fast food. This tastes like something, has a presence, a richness that comes from being used over and over, flavoured by the dozens of batches of fries that came before yours. Some places might call that old oil, but here it is seasoned oil, contributing flavour instead of detracting from it. You drag a fry through the small pool of melted cheese that leaked onto your plate from the burger, and the combination is revelatory. The cheese clings to the fry, adding a creamy, tangy richness that transforms the potato into something almost decadent. You immediately do it again with another fry, and then another, chasing cheese across the plate until none is left. The basket is deep enough that the fries at the bottom are slightly less crispy than the ones on top, steamed a bit by their own heat and the heat of the fries piled above them, but this is not a flaw. The softer fries provide a different experience, more focused on the potato itself, less about the crunch. You eat them anyway, enjoying the variety, the way a single order of fries can contain multiples, different expressions of the same basic idea. Halfway through the basket, you pause to take another drink of Coke. Your fingers are thoroughly greasy now, glistening under the restaurant lights, and you wipe them on the napkin with only partial success. The grease does not fully come off. It is committed to your fingers now, a temporary badge that announces you are eating French fries, that you are engaged in an activity that cannot be done delicately. A few fries have fallen onto the counter, escapees from the overstuffed basket, and you eat those too, brushing off the counter residue, not caring. The 5-second rule is more like the 30-second rule when you are this hungry, and besides, the counter was just wiped down, probably. You can feel the salt and grease starting to accumulate in your system, and you know that in a few hours you will be thirsty, that you will drink an entire glass of water in one go and still want more. But right now, in this moment, the salt tastes perfect, the grease tastes perfect, and the fries keep disappearing from the basket with alarming speed. You eat the last one, a small, crispy end piece that is more crust than potato, and you tip the basket slightly to check for any hidden survivors. Nothing. The waxed paper is stained dark with grease, scattered with salt crystals and a few tiny potato fragments too small to bother with. The basket is empty. And somehow, you already miss them. Your Coke arrives in a tall glass, ice clinking, condensation already beading on the outside. The waitress made it herself at the soda fountain, dispensing syrup and carbonated water in the exact ratio she has memorized through years of practice. You take a sip through the straw and the bubbles fizz against your tongue, cold and sharp and sweet. The kind of Coke that tastes different because it was made by hand, because it came from a fountain, because it exists in this specific moment. The glass is thick, heavy, substantial in your hand, and the cold radiates through the glass into your palm. The outside is wet with condensation, moisture pulled from the air by the temperature differential, and you have to grip it firmly to keep it from slipping. You wipe the water off on your napkin, but more forms immediately, a constant cycle of cold and moisture that will continue as long as the ice lasts. The ice fills maybe half the glass, cubes that are slightly irregular because they came from a tray, not a machine, and they clink against the sides when you lift the glass to drink. Some are larger, some smaller, and they melt at different rates, slowly diluting the Coke, changing the flavor profile bit by bit as the meal progresses. Right now, fresh from the fountain, the Coke is intensely sweet, strongly carbonated, cold enough to make your teeth ache slightly if you drink too fast. The straw is paper, red and white striped, already going slightly soft at the bottom where it sits in the liquid. Paper straws are all they have in 1955, and they work fine as long as you do not leave them sitting too long. You sip through it and the liquid rushes up, over your tongue, the carbonation crackling, the sweetness hitting immediately followed by that distinctive Coke flavor that is somehow both familiar and impossible to describe accurately. Cola, vanilla, caramel, something slightly citrus, something slightly spiced, all of it blended into a taste that simply is Coke, recognizable anywhere, timeless. The fountain sits behind the counter, a stainless steel apparatus with multiple spouts, each one labeled with a different flavor. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, root beer, orange, lemon lime. The waitress stands in front of it dozens of times per shift, filling glass after glass, and she has internalized the ratios completely. Too much syrup and the drink is cloying, undrinkable. Too much carbonated water and it tastes thin, watery, disappointing. She hits the balance every time, without measuring, without thinking, just pulling the syrup lever for a 3 count and the soda water lever for a 7 count, then adding ice and handing it over. The syrup comes from large containers stored under the counter, connected to the fountain by tubes, and it is replenished weekly by a delivery truck that brings new bottles and takes away the empties. The carbonated water is made on site, tap water forced through a carbonator that adds the fizz, and the whole system is maintained by a technician who comes by once a month to check the pressure, clean the lines, and make sure everything is working correctly. This is a completely different experience from a bottled Coke, which is mixed at the factory and sealed until you open it. Fountain Coke is alive, made fresh every time, slightly different from glass to glass depending on how long the syrup has been sitting, how cold the water is, how much ice the waitress adds. Some people swear Fountain Coke is better, and they might be right, though it is hard to separate the taste from the experience. From the context of sitting in a restaurant with a cold glass in your hand and food on the way. You drink steadily, the sweetness countering the salt from the fries, the cold soothing the heat from the burger. The Coke is doing its job, which is to be refreshing, to cleanse your palate, to provide a sugary jolt of energy that complements the savory richness of the meal. The carbonation tickles your nose when you drink too fast. The ice numbs your lips. The straw starts to bend where you have been biting it absently. By the time you finish eating, the Coke will be half water from the melted ice, less sweet, less carbonated, almost gone. But right now, in these first few sips, it is perfect. Cold, fizzy, sweet, exactly what you wanted without knowing you wanted it. The ideal accompaniment to a burger and fries in a 1950s restaurant, where someone still makes your Coke by hand, one glass at a time. You set the glass down, the condensation pools on the formica, the ice settles with a soft clink, and you take another sip, because you can, because it is there, because this is what Coke is for. Someone at the counter orders a chocolate malt and you watch the counterman make it, dropping ice cream into a metal cup, adding milk and malt powder, then locking it onto the spindle mixer that whirs and rattles like a small earthquake. When he pours it into a tall glass, it is thick enough that the straw stands upright on its own, and he slides the metal cup over too, so you get every last drop. The mixer is loud, a mechanical roar that briefly dominates all other sounds in the restaurant, and everyone knows that sound, associates it with milkshakes and malts, with treats and indulgence and something special. The counterman does not measure anything. He scoops ice cream with a practiced motion, 2 big scoops that he deposits into the metal cup with a satisfying plop. Then milk from a small pitcher, poured until it looks right. Then malt powder from a shaker, a generous dusting that turns the white milk slightly beige. He locks the metal cup onto the mixer with a twist, ensuring it is seated properly, and then he flips the switch. The machine comes to life, the motor whirring, the spindle spinning at high speed, the metal blades inside the cup chopping and blending and aerating, transforming separate ingredients into a unified whole. The cup vibrates violently on the mixer, and the counterman keeps one hand on it, steadying it, feeling through his palm when the consistency is right. 30 seconds, maybe 40. Then he flips the switch off, and the machine winds down with a descending whine. He lifts the cup from the mixer, and you can see the result through the metal. Thick, creamy, studded with tiny bubbles from the aeration. He pours it into a tall fountain glass, the kind with a flared top and a heavy base, and the shake flows slowly, reluctantly, thick as pudding. It takes effort to pour, and he has to tilt the cup steeply to get it all out, using a long spoon to scrape the last bit from the sides. The glass fills to the brim, mounded slightly above the rim, and he sets it on the counter along with the metal mixing cup, which still contains another third of a shake, too much to fit in the glass. This is the bonus, the extra, the overflow that makes ordering a malt feel like getting more than you paid for. You get the glass, and you get the cup, and together they equal more shake than any reasonable person needs, which is exactly the right amount. A straw goes into the glass, but the shake is so thick the straw just stands there, upright and defiant, refusing to sink. You have to use the straw like a spoon at first, scooping the thick shake into your mouth, letting it melt slightly on your tongue before you can really taste it. Chocolate, rich and sweet, with that distinctive malt flavor underneath, slightly nutty, slightly earthy, complex in a way that plain chocolate is not. The ice cream provides creaminess and cold, the milk provides body, and the malt powder provides depth. Some people prefer milkshakes without the malt powder, and that is fine. That is their choice, but those people are wrong. The malt powder is what transforms a milkshake from merely good into something transcendent, adding a layer of flavor that makes you slow down, pay attention, appreciate what you are drinking, instead of just consuming it mindlessly. The cold is intense, almost painfully cold, and you can feel it travel down your throat and into your stomach. A cold that radiates outward, making you shiver slightly despite the warmth of the restaurant. This is the kind of cold that causes brain freeze if you drink too fast, that sharp stabbing pain behind your forehead that makes you stop and wait and breathe through your nose until it passes. But the risk is worth it, because the shake is that good, that rich, that satisfying. You alternate between the glass and the metal cup, drinking from one and then the other, trying to pace yourself so they run out at the same time. The glass is easier to drink from, but the cup somehow feels more generous, more abundant, like a secret reserve you can dip into when you think the shake is almost gone. The metal is cold against your lips, colder than the glass, and it sweats condensation just like your Coke glass did, leaving wet rings on the counter. The malt lasts through the entire meal and beyond. Long after your burger is gone, after your fries are finished, you are still working on the shake, sipping slowly, letting it melt slightly so it becomes drinkable instead of spoonable. The flavor changes as it warms, becomes less intensely cold and more deeply chocolate, the malt flavor coming forward, asserting itself. Other people at the counter have ordered shakes too, and the mixer runs intermittently, that distinctive whir announcing each new creation. Strawberry, vanilla, chocolate, occasionally something more adventurous like butterscotch or pineapple, each one thick, each one served in a tall glass with the metal cup on the side, each one more than enough but somehow never quite too much. You reach the bottom of your glass, the straw making that slurping sound that signals the end, and you tip the metal cup up, finishing the last of the overflow. Your stomach is full, your mouth is cold, your sweet tooth is satisfied, the empty glass and cup sit on the counter, evidence of something wonderful that no longer exists except as a memory and a pleasant heaviness in your midsection. They are loud and laughing, sprawled across the vinyl seats like they own the place, sharing fries and passing around a single malt with 4 straws. The boys have their hair slicked back with pomade. The girls wear ponytails tied with ribbon. They are talking about the dance next week, about someone's new car, about nothing and everything, their voices rising and falling in the easy rhythm of people who have nowhere else to be and no reason to rush. There are 4 of them, maybe 5, crammed into a booth designed for 4, but they do not seem to mind the crowding. If anything, they lean into it, sitting close, arms draped over the back of the bench, legs stretched out under the table where they tangle with other legs, in a casual intimacy that speaks of friendship and youth, and a complete lack of self-consciousness. The boys wear jeans and white t-shirts or maybe button-up shirts with the sleeves rolled up, and their hair is a monument to the power of petroleum-based grooming products. Every strand is in place, swept back and held there by enough pomade to weatherproof a small shed. When they run their fingers through their hair, which they do frequently, their hands come away shiny. They smell like Brill cream and Old Spice and teenage confidence. The girls have dressed up more, or maybe their casual just looks more formal, full skirts that billow around their knees, blouses tucked in and belted at the waist, cardigans draped over their shoulders. Their ponytails are high and tight, hair pulled back and secured with ribbons or elastic bands, and when they laugh, their ponytails bounce. They wear lipstick, carefully applied, and they check it periodically in compact mirrors pulled from their purses, blotting and reapplying, maintaining the illusion of effortless perfection. They have ordered 1 burger to share, 1 order of fries, and 1 malt, and they are making it last. The burger has been cut into quarters, and each person got a piece, eaten slowly, savoured. The fries are communal property, sitting in the middle of the table where everyone can reach, and they disappear one at a time, grabbed during pauses in conversation, eaten absently while someone tells a story or makes a point. The malt has 4 straws, each person claiming 1, and they sip from it periodically, the shake slowly descending in the tall glass as the evening wears on. The conversation is loud enough that you can catch fragments from where you sit. Did you hear about? And I cannot believe she and he said he would. But I don't know. And are you going to? The details are lost, but the tone is clear. These are people deep in the social complexities of teenage life, navigating crushes and friendships and rivalries and alliances with the seriousness of generals planning a campaign. One of the boys leans back, stretching, and accidentally kicks the table leg, making the glasses rattle and the fries jump in their basket. The girls shriek in mock outrage. He apologizes, laughing, clearly not sorry. Someone throws a crumpled napkin at him. He catches it and throws it back. For a moment, the booth erupts in chaos, voices overlapping, everyone talking at once, and then it settles again, the energy dispersing as quickly as it formed. The jukebox plays a song they all know, and they sing along, unself-consciously, harmonizing on the chorus in a way that suggests they have sung together before, many times, until their voices know how to blend without thinking about it. Other people in the restaurant glance over, some smiling, some annoyed, but the teenagers do not notice or do not care. They are in their own world, a bubble of youth and noise and complete certainty that this moment, this booth, these friends, this song are the most important things in the universe. The waitress comes by to check on them, and they order another Coke to share. She does not suggest they order more food. She knows this routine. They will sit here for another hour, maybe 2, nursing that single Coke, and then they will pay the check, leave a modest tip, and spill out into the parking lot where they will stand around talking for another 30 minutes before finally, reluctantly, going their separate ways. This booth is their territory. They have claimed it tonight the way they claim it every Friday night, every Saturday night. Whenever they need a place to gather that is not school and not home, a neutral zone where they can be themselves, loudly and unapologetically, the restaurant tolerates them because they do eventually pay, and because the counterman and the waitress were teenagers once too, and because their noise and laughter are part of what makes this place feel alive. One of the girls checks her watch, says something about curfew. The others groan. "Not yet," someone says. "Just a little longer." And they settle back into the booth, extracting every last minute from the evening, from their youth, from the simple pleasure of being together in a place where the lights are bright and the music is good, and nothing particularly important is required of anyone. The malt is almost gone, the fries are down to crumbs, the Coke will arrive soon, and they will make that last too. By 6 o'clock, the booths fill with families, parents sliding in with toddlers on their laps, older kids jostling for the window seat. The father orders for everyone, the mother cuts a burger into careful bites for the youngest, and for a little while, the restaurant becomes a second dining room, informal and forgiving. No one is in a hurry. No one is checking their watch. This is dinner, and dinner takes as long as it takes. The families arrive in waves, one car pulling into the parking lot followed by another, fathers still wearing their work clothes, mothers in house dresses or skirts, kids in play clothes that are grass-stained and rumpled from an afternoon of running around the neighborhood. They push through the door, the bell chiming, and they scan the restaurant for an available booth, the father's hand on his youngest child's shoulder, steering, guiding, claiming a spot before another family can take it. They slide into the booth with the practiced choreography of a family that eats together regularly. The parents take the ends, bracketing the children, creating a contained space where no one can escape without permission. The kids argue briefly about who sits where, who gets the window, who has to sit on the inside and climb over everyone to get out. The parents settle it with quiet authority, and suddenly everyone is seated, menus are distributed, and the family unit has transformed from a mobile group to a stationary one. The father is tired. You can see it in his shoulders, in the way he rubs his face with one hand before opening the menu. He has been at work since 7 this morning, maybe earlier, and he will be back tomorrow at the same time, but right now he is here, present, doing his duty as the family breadwinner by literally buying bread, or in this case burgers. He reads the menu even though he knows what it says, even though he orders the same thing every time, because reading the menu is part of the ritual. The mother is managing. That is what she does, all day, every day, and she does not stop now just because they are out of the house. She monitors the children, intercepts squabbles before they escalate, reminds the oldest to share the crayons the waitress brought, adjusts the youngest so he is sitting properly on the bench instead of kneeling. Her eyes are everywhere, tracking, anticipating, preventing disasters before they materialize. When the waitress arrives to take their order, the mother has already decided what everyone is getting, has already calculated the cost, has already determined what is reasonable and what is too expensive. The father orders for the table, his voice tired but clear. 2 cheeseburgers, 1 hamburger, 1 grilled cheese for the little one, 3 orders of fries, 2 Cokes, and 2 milks. The waitress writes it down, asks if they want the burgers with everything, confirms the milk is for the children. The father nods. The mother adds, "And extra napkins, please." The waitress nods. She knows. She has already planned to bring extra napkins. Families with small children always need extra napkins. The wait for food is occupied with small activities. The oldest child draws on the paper placemat with the crayons, creating elaborate scenes that make sense only to him. The middle child spins the straw dispenser, watching the straws tumble. The youngest bangs a spoon on the table until the mother gently removes it, offering a salt shaker to hold instead, which proves equally fascinating. The father and mother talk quietly, their conversation a mix of logistics and small observations. "Did you remember to?" And "we need to," and "I saw Mrs. Henderson at the store." When the food arrives, the mother goes into action. She cuts the grilled cheese into strips. She opens the ketchup bottle and deposits a small pool on the youngest's plate. She arranges the fries so they are accessible. She unwraps straws and places them in glasses. She tests the temperature of the milk by touching the glass. She does all of this while also managing her own meal, taking quick bites between tasks, eating efficiently, mechanically, her attention divided among 5 people's needs. The children eat with enthusiasm and mess. Ketchup ends up on cheeks, on shirts, on the table. The youngest drops a fry and immediately goes under the table to retrieve it, emerging triumphant. The mother wipes faces with napkins, dabs at stains, maintains a baseline level of cleanliness, even though she knows it is a losing battle. The father eats steadily, methodically, his burger providing fuel for the next day's work, and he watches his family with an expression that might be contentment or might just be exhaustion. It is hard to tell. Other families in other booths are having nearly identical experiences. The same negotiations, the same spills, the same tired parents, and energetic children. The restaurant accommodates them all, provides a space where families can exist together outside the confines of home, where dinner does not have to be perfect, where ketchup on the table is not a crisis. By 7 o'clock, the first families are finishing, gathering their things, the father paying at the register while the mother herds the children toward the door. They leave behind tables littered with crumpled napkins and crumbs, and the waitress moves in immediately, wiping everything down, resetting the table for the next family, which is already waiting by the door. The cycle continues. Families come, families eat, families leave. And the restaurant hums on, reliable and constant, a place where dinner happens every night, where children make messes and parents clean them up, where no one expects perfection and everyone gets fed. She knows them all by name, the regulars who come in every Tuesday for meatloaf, every Saturday for a malt, every morning for coffee and a donut. She remembers how they take their coffee, knows which booth they prefer, asks about their grandkids and their jobs and their gardens. She is not just serving food, she is maintaining relationships, and the restaurant runs on these small repeated interactions as much as it runs on burgers and fries. There is Mr. Peterson, who arrives every morning at 7:15, orders coffee and a glazed donut, reads the paper for exactly 45 minutes, and leaves a dime tip. She has his coffee poured before he sits down, knows he takes it black with 1 sugar, sets it on the counter at his usual spot, so it is waiting when he comes through the door. He nods his thanks, unfolds his paper, and settles into his morning routine. They do not talk much. A brief good morning, a comment about the weather, but the familiarity is there, built over hundreds of identical mornings, a relationship defined by consistency rather than conversation. There are the Henderson sisters, elderly twins who come in every Wednesday for lunch, always order the same thing, always split a tuna sandwich and a cup of soup. She seats them in the booth by the window where the light is good, brings them hot water with lemon before they ask for it, knows that one of them is hard of hearing, so she speaks slightly louder when taking their order. They call her dear and honey, ask about her children, comment on her hair when she changes it. When they leave, they fold their napkins neatly and stack their plates, tidying up even though that is her job. And they leave 15 cents, even though their bill is only 60 cents, a generous percentage that reflects decades of being served by people like her. There is Jimmy, the teenager who comes in most afternoons, orders fries and a Coke, does his homework in the corner booth. She has watched him grow up, from a skinny 12-year-old to a tall 16-year-old who is suddenly shaving and trying to grow sideburns. She remembers when he came in with his mother, and now he comes alone, and soon he will have a girlfriend with him, and then one day he will stop coming altogether because he will have moved on to adult things. But for now, he is still here, still a kid, and she still brings him extra ketchup without being asked and does not rush him even when he nurses a single Coke for 2 hours. The regulars are not just customers. They are something more, something harder to define. They are witnesses to her life as much as she is a witness to theirs. They see her when she is tired, when she is cheerful, When she is having a bad day but still has to smile, she sees them aging, changing, going through the incremental shifts that define a life. Mr. Peterson's hair gets greyer. The Henderson sisters move a little slower each year. Jimmy hits his growth spurt, then starts wearing cologne, then gets his driver's license, and starts coming in less often. She remembers their patterns. Mrs. Kowalski always orders her burger plain, no vegetables, just meat and cheese. Bill from the hardware store drinks his coffee while it is still too hot and burns his tongue every single time but never learns. The Harrison family always sits in the same booth and always splits 2 malts 4 ways, even though it would be cheaper to just order more. This knowledge gives her power, or at least efficiency. She can anticipate needs, deliver things before they are requested, smooth the rough edges of service into something that feels effortless, even though it requires constant attention. She knows who will need a refill before they finish their first cup, who wants the check immediately after eating, who will sit and talk for another hour. She adjusts her approach to each person, each table, each moment. The regulars tip better too, because they know her, because they have seen her work, because she has earned their loyalty through months or years of small kindnesses and remembered preferences. The tips are not large. The economy does not support large tips, but they are consistent, reliable, and they add up. A dime here, a quarter there, and at the end of the week she has enough to buy her kids new shoes or put something away for a rainy day. But it is not just about the money. The regulars make the job bearable, make it something more than just carrying plates and filling glasses. They make it relational, human, connected. When Mr. Peterson asks how her son is doing in school, he actually wants to know. When the Henderson sisters compliment her new lipstick, they mean it. When Jimmy leaves his schoolwork on the table and comes back 10 minutes later in a panic, she has already set it aside for him, knew he would forget, knew he would come back. This is her restaurant as much as it belongs to the owner, maybe more. She has been here 5 years, knows every inch of it, has spilled coffee on every table, has memorized which tiles on the floor are slightly uneven, which booth has the torn cushion, which stool squeaks. The regulars are her people, her community, the reason she shows up every day, even when her feet hurt and her back aches and she is so tired she could sleep standing up. She knows them, they know her, and that knowledge, that familiarity, that repeated contact is worth more than the tips, more than the wages, more than any of the individual components of the job. It is what makes this place feel like home, even though she does not live here, even though she will never sit down and order a burger for herself, even though when she leaves tonight, she will go back to her real home and cook dinner for her real family and collapse into bed exhausted. She still thinks of this as her place, and the regulars, in their own way, think of her as theirs. There is a lull around 3 in the afternoon, after lunch but before dinner, when the restaurant falls into a kind of peaceful hush. The counterman wipes down the grill. The waitress refills the napkin dispensers. A couple sits in the corner booth, not talking, just being together, sharing a piece of pie and 2 forks. The jukebox plays something slow and dreamy. The light through the windows is golden and soft. The lunch rush ended around 1:30, the last of the workers returning to their jobs, the last of the mothers collecting their children and heading home to put them down for naps. For the past 2 hours, the restaurant has been in constant motion, plates arriving and leaving, orders being called out, the grill sizzling non-stop, the waitress moving between tables with practiced efficiency. But now, suddenly, it is quiet. Not empty, exactly. There are still a few people scattered around. An old man at the counter with a newspaper and a cup of coffee that has probably gone cold. A young woman in a booth by herself, writing in a notebook, occasionally pausing to stare out the window. The couple with their pie, sitting close together on the same side of the booth even though there is plenty of room to spread out. But the energy has shifted, slowed, become contemplative rather than frantic. The counterman takes advantage of the lull to clean. He scrapes the grill thoroughly, removing the accumulated carbon and grease from the morning and afternoon, the metal spatula making a rhythmic scraping sound that echoes in the quiet space. Then he wipes it down with oil, seasoning it, preparing it for the dinner rush that will come in a few hours. His movements are slow, methodical, almost meditative. This is the kind of work that allows the mind to wander, and his probably does, though his face reveals nothing. The waitress moves between tables, refilling napkin dispensers from a box she carries under one arm. She checks each one, adds a few napkins, moves to the next. She straightens the salt and pepper shakers, making sure they are properly paired, centered on each table. She refills the ketchup bottles, pouring from one into another, consolidating, reducing waste. These are the maintenance tasks that keep the restaurant running, the invisible labor that customers never think about but would notice immediately if it did not happen. The couple in the corner booth shares the pie slowly, savoring it, or maybe just not particularly hungry, using it as an excuse to sit together for a little longer. They take turns, one fork going to the plate, lifting a bite, offering it to the other person. They are comfortable with each other, past the nervous energy of new romance but not yet settled into the routine indifference of long marriage. They exist in that sweet middle space, still interested, still attentive, still choosing to spend their afternoon in a restaurant booth instead of anywhere else. The jukebox plays without anyone feeding it coins, programmed to cycle through selections during quiet times, keeping the restaurant from feeling too empty, too silent. The song is something slow, maybe a ballad, maybe Perry Como or Nat King Cole, and it drifts through the space like a gentle fog, filling in the gaps, providing a soundtrack for the peaceful lull. The music is not intrusive, does not demand attention, just exists as a pleasant background presence. The light coming through the windows has changed quality. The harsh brightness of midday has softened into something warmer, more diffused, and it streams through the glass in golden shafts that illuminate dust motes floating lazily in the air. The light catches the chrome edges of the counter, the glass of the pie case, the vinyl of the booth seats, and everything glows gently, looks somehow more beautiful than it did a few hours ago. Time feels different during these hours, slower, less urgent. The clock on the wall still ticks forward at the same pace, but no one is watching it, no one is in a hurry. The old man at the counter will sit there as long as his coffee lasts, and maybe even longer. The young woman in the booth will fill pages in her notebook, or maybe just stare out the window, and no one will rush her. The couple will finish their pie eventually, but there is no pressure, no sense that they need to vacate the booth for the next customers because there are no next customers, not yet. The waitress pours herself a cup of coffee and leans against the counter near the register, taking a brief rest. Her feet hurt. They always hurt by this time of day. But the worst is behind her, and she has a little while before the dinner shift starts, and right now she can just stand here, drinking her coffee, looking out at the mostly empty restaurant, feeling grateful for the momentary peace. The counterman finishes with the grill and starts on the milkshake mixer, wiping down the spindle, cleaning the base. These are the details that matter, the maintenance that keeps equipment running, that prevents breakdowns during the busiest times. He works quietly, humming tunelessly under his breath, content with his task. Outside, a car passes occasionally. Inside, the refrigerator hums, the jukebox shifts to a new song. And for these few precious hours, the restaurant breathes, rests, gathers itself for the evening rush that will come, inevitably, when the clock strikes 5 and the families start arriving, and the whole cycle begins again. But for now, there is only quiet, only light, only the gentle passage of an afternoon that belongs to no one and everyone, a pocket of stillness in the middle of a busy day. Smoke hangs in the air, drifting in lazy curls above the booths, and no one thinks twice about it. The ashtrays on every table are heavy glass, cleaned between customers but never quite free of the faint smell of old tobacco. People smoke while they eat, between bites, after their meal, and it is just part of the atmosphere, woven into the fabric of the place as surely as the smell of coffee and grilled onions. Every table has an ashtray, centered between the condiments, a chunky piece of pressed glass with grooves molded into the rim, where cigarettes can rest without rolling into the center. The glass is clear but slightly cloudy from repeated washing, from being exposed to heat and smoke and the accumulated handling of thousands of smokers. Some ashtrays are clean, emptied, and wiped by the waitress between customers. Others are in use, holding one or two butts, accumulating ash that drifts down in soft grey flakes when someone taps their cigarette. The counterman smokes while he works, a cigarette dangling from his lips, ash growing long before he finally taps it into a small tin ashtray kept on the shelf below the grill, out of sight of customers but within easy reach. He squints slightly from the smoke curling up into his eyes, but he does not remove the cigarette, just adjusts his head angle slightly and keeps working, flipping burgers one-handed, the cigarette bobbing with each movement of his jaw. The waitress does not smoke during her shift, cannot smoke while moving between tables with plates in her hands, but during her break, she steps out the back door into the alley and lights up. Standing there for 5 minutes in the cool air, drawing smoke deep into her lungs, exhaling slowly, feeling the nicotine calm her nerves and ease the constant low-grade stress of being on her feet all day. When she comes back inside, she smells like fresh smoke, and no one minds because everyone smells like smoke anyway, either their own or someone else's. The customers smoke casually, automatically, lighting up without asking permission or checking whether anyone objects. A man at the counter finishes his burger, pushes the plate away, and immediately reaches for his cigarettes, shaking one out of the pack, tapping it twice on the counter to pack the tobacco, then lighting it with a metal lighter that makes a satisfying click when he flips it open. He inhales deeply, exhales through his nose, and settles back on his stool, satisfied, the cigarette held loosely between his fingers. In the booths, couples smoke together, sometimes sharing an ashtray, sometimes each using their own. A woman lights a cigarette while her date talks, listening, nodding, exhaling smoke toward the ceiling in a thin stream. When she takes a drag, the tip glows bright orange for a moment, then fades back to smouldering. The smoke rises and spreads, joining the general haze that hovers about 6 feet above the floor, a visible layer that catches the light coming through the windows. The teenagers smoke too, or at least some of them do, the ones who have convinced the counterman they are old enough, or the ones who look old enough that no one questions them. They smoke with exaggerated casualness, holding their cigarettes the way they have seen adults hold them, trying to look sophisticated, experienced, though the slight awkwardness in their movements betrays their relative inexperience. One of the boys takes a drag and coughs, covering it quickly, hoping no one noticed. The smell of cigarette smoke mixes with all the other smells in the restaurant, the grilled beef and fried onions and coffee, and instead of clashing, they combine into a single unified scent that is simply the smell of this place, this time, this moment in history. If you walked in here blindfolded, you would know immediately where you were, just from the smell. A restaurant, 1950s, America, where people eat and smoke and talk and live their lives with a casualness that will seem shocking to future generations. The smoke irritates some people's eyes, makes them water slightly, but no one complains because complaining would mark you as someone who does not understand how things work, someone out of step with normal social behavior. Smoking is normal. Smoke in restaurants is normal. If you do not like it, you can sit near the door where the ventilation is slightly better, but you cannot make it go away entirely, and you would not think to ask. The ashtrays fill slowly over the course of a meal, one butt, then another, each one lipstick stained or not, depending on who was smoking. The waitress empties them periodically, dumping the contents into a larger receptacle in the back, wiping them clean with a damp rag, returning them to the tables ready for the next customer. The heavy glass makes a solid sound when she sets it down, substantial, permanent, as much a part of the table setting as the salt and pepper. By the evening, a visible haze hangs in the restaurant, thickest near the ceiling where it accumulates in layers. The overhead lights shine through it, creating soft halos, diffusing the illumination into something gentler, almost romantic. The smoke moves slowly, swirling in the currents created by the door opening and closing, by the fan on the wall, by people walking past. No one thinks about the health effects. No one considers that this might be harmful, that breathing secondhand smoke for 8 hours a day might have consequences, that the waitress and the counterman are slowly absorbing toxins into their lungs with every breath. These concerns exist somewhere, in medical journals and research laboratories, but they have not yet penetrated mainstream consciousness, have not yet changed behavior. Right now, in 1955, smoking is just what people do. They smoke in restaurants, in cars, in offices, in airplanes, in hospitals. They smoke after meals and during meals and before meals. They smoke while pregnant, while sick, while recovering from lung surgery. And in this restaurant on this evening, the smoke rises and spreads and settles, and everyone breathes it in, and life goes on. When you are finished, the waitress tears your check from her pad and places it face down on the counter with a smile. You flip it over, 65 cents, written in her looping handwriting. You dig through your pocket for coins, count out 2 quarters, a dime, and a nickel, and leave them stacked neatly beside your plate. She will sweep them into her apron pocket with a practiced motion, and you will walk out feeling like you got more than your money's worth. The check itself is small, maybe 3 inches by 4, printed on thin paper that tears easily along the perforations. At the top is the restaurant's name, maybe a little logo, and below that are blank lines where the waitress has written your order in that same shorthand she used when she took it. The handwriting is quick, efficient, slightly messy, but legible enough that you can make out what you ordered even if you cannot quite decipher her abbreviations. Cheeseburger, FF, Coke. The prices are listed beside each item, and at the bottom is the total, underlined once for emphasis. 65 cents. You turn that number over in your mind. A cheeseburger that actually tasted like beef. Fries that were cut from real potatoes this morning. A Coke made by hand at the fountain. All of it together costs less than $1, less than what you might spend on a magazine or a pack of cigarettes or a movie ticket. The value feels almost absurd, though you know it is simply what things cost in 1955, when $1 still means something, when coins have weight and purchasing power. You reach into your pocket and pull out a handful of change, silver coins mixed with a few copper pennies, and you sort through them on the counter, counting out the exact amount. 2 quarters make 50 cents. A dime brings it to 60. A nickel makes 65. The coins are heavy, substantial, real silver or silver-colored metal, not the lightweight alloys that will replace them in future decades. They clink against each other with a satisfying sound, the sound of real money, of tangible value. You stack them neatly, quarters on the bottom for stability, then the dime, then the nickel on top, a small tower of coins that represents your payment for the meal. The stack sits beside your empty plate, next to the wadded napkin and the smear of ketchup you did not quite wipe up, and it waits for the waitress to claim it. She is already moving toward you, having noticed from across the restaurant that you have finished, that you have placed money on the counter, that you are preparing to leave. She arrives with a smile, glances down at the coins, at the check, doing the math instantly in her head to confirm that the amount is correct. It is. She scoops up the coins in one smooth motion, her hand closing around them, transferring them to the deep pocket of her apron, where they join the dozens of other coins she has collected over the course of her shift. "Thank you," she says, and you nod, and the transaction is complete. No credit cards, no receipts to sign, no tip calculation to agonize over. Just coins on a counter, a check paid in full, and a smile exchanged between 2 people who may never see each other again, but who have, for this brief moment, participated in something simple and human and transactional in the best possible way. You stand, brushing crumbs from your lap, and you realize that the meal has left you satisfied in a way that goes beyond mere fullness. Your stomach is content, your taste buds are happy. Your wallet is barely lighter. You have eaten real food, prepared by real people in a real place, and the whole experience costs 65 cents and maybe 45 minutes of your time. The waitress is already wiping down your spot at the counter, clearing away your plate and glass, resetting the space for the next customer. The coins have disappeared into her apron, will be counted out at the end of her shift, divided between tips and payment, recorded in the register or taken home depending on the restaurant's system. She does not think about your specific 65 cents anymore. She has already moved on to the next table, the next order, the next interaction. But you remember the weight of the coins in your hand, the feel of the silver, the simple arithmetic of counting out exact change. You remember the satisfaction of paying for something with money you can hold, can see, can count. The transaction was clean, clear, uncomplicated by technology or debt or distant processing centers. You gave coins, you received food, the exchange was equal, fair, complete. You push away from the counter and head toward the door, and as you walk past the register, the counterman glances up and nods, a small acknowledgement of your departure. "Come back soon," he says, or maybe he does not say anything at all, just nods, and that is enough. The bell chimes above your head as you push through the door, stepping from the warm, bright interior back into the world outside, and in your pocket the remaining coins jingle softly, ready for the next time you get hungry, the next time you want a burger, the next time 65 cents buys you exactly what you need. As the evening winds down, the restaurant begins its slow transformation back into stillness. The counterman scrapes the grill clean, the waitress wipes down the booths, and someone flips the sign from open to closed. The neon still glows outside, but inside the lights are dimmed, and the space feels different, quieter, like a theatre after the audience has left. The last customers linger at the counter, finishing their coffee, not quite ready to leave, and the waitress does not rush them. She has learned that some people need a few extra minutes, need to sit in the warmth and light a little longer before heading home to whatever waits for them there. She refills the coffee one last time on the house and busies herself with other tasks, giving them space to finish at their own pace. The counterman works methodically through his closing checklist, a routine so ingrained he could do it in his sleep. He scrapes the grill one final time, removing every bit of grease and carbon, getting down to the clean metal underneath. Then he turns off the gas, and the flames that have burned all day finally go out, and the grill begins its slow cool down. He wipes down the counter, empties the coffee pot, washes the spatulas and places them in their proper spots for tomorrow's opener. He covers the remaining food, slides it into the refrigerator, takes out the trash. The waitress moves through the dining room with a damp rag and a spray bottle, wiping down every table, every booth, every surface where food was served. She empties the ashtrays into a metal bucket, rinses them in the sink, sets them upside down to dry. She refills the napkin dispensers one last time, tops off the salt and pepper shakers, makes sure the ketchup and mustard bottles are ready for tomorrow. She sweeps the floor, pushing crumbs and bits of wrapper toward the back, and the sound of the broom against tile is rhythmic, almost meditative. The jukebox has gone silent, its final song played an hour ago, and no one has fed it any more coins. The coloured lights still glow inside, but the mechanism is still, the records motionless in their slots. Tomorrow someone will turn it back on, and it will spring to life again, but for now it simply sits in the corner, dormant, resting. The last customers finally stand, leaving coins on the counter, pulling on their jackets. The counterman wishes them a good night. They nod, push through the door, and the bell chimes one final time. The waitress watches them go, then walks over and turns the lock, flipping the deadbolt with a satisfying chunk. She reaches up and flips the sign in the window from open to closed, and just like that, the restaurant is shut down for the night, sealed off from the world until morning. The lights get dimmed, not turned off completely, just reduced to a low level that allows them to finish their work without stumbling around in darkness. The restaurant looks different in this low light, softer, almost ghostly. The chrome loses its shine. The red vinyl fades to a muted burgundy. Everything looks tired, used, ready for rest. The waitress counts out her tips at the register, sorting coins and bills into neat piles, doing the math in her head, pleased when the total comes out higher than expected. She splits the tips with the counterman according to whatever arrangement they have worked out, slides her share into her purse, and tucks the purse under her arm. Her feet ache, her back aches. She smells like grease and smoke and coffee. She is exhausted. But she is also satisfied. in the way that comes from honest work honestly done. She served maybe 60 people today, maybe more. She took orders, delivered food, refilled drinks, cleared plates, smiled even when she did not feel like smiling. And she got through another shift without dropping anything or losing her temper or breaking down in the walk-in cooler. Tomorrow she will do it again. And the day after that. But tonight, right now, she is done. The counterman finishes his tasks, unties his apron, hangs it on a hook in the back. He turns off the remaining lights, leaving only the security light burning near the back door. He checks the locks one more time, makes sure the grill is completely off, visually scans the restaurant for anything left undone. Nothing. Everything is ready for tomorrow. They walk out the back door together, into the alley where their cars are parked. The air is cool and clean after hours in the restaurant's warmth, and they both breathe it in deeply, grateful. They say their goodnights, tired but friendly, and they drive home in opposite directions, leaving the restaurant dark and empty and silent. Inside, the neon still glows in the window, visible from the street, announcing to no one in particular that this place exists, that tomorrow it will open again, that the burgers and fries and malts will return, that life will continue in this small, familiar rhythm. The restaurant sleeps, and tomorrow, at 6 a.m., someone will unlock the door and turn on the lights and start the coffee, and the whole cycle will begin again. You push open the glass door and step back into the world, and the night air feels cool against your skin after the warmth of the restaurant. The neon sign still buzzes above you, casting pink and blue light across the pavement. You can still taste the burger, still feel the fizz of the Coke on your tongue, and for a moment you just stand there, reluctant to leave, wanting to hold on to this feeling a little longer. The temperature difference is more noticeable than you expected. Inside was warm, almost too warm, kept that way by the grill and the bodies and the general activity of a restaurant in operation. Out here the air has that evening coolness, comfortable but distinct, making you aware of your skin, of the boundary between inside and outside. You pause on the sidewalk, letting your body adjust, letting the transition happen gradually rather than rushing off to your next destination. The neon sign hums its electrical song, that constant vibration you could barely hear inside, but that becomes more prominent out here in the relative quiet. The pink script spells out the restaurant's name, and below it the smaller tubes still promise open, though you know that in a few hours someone will flip that sign to closed and lock the door. But for now, the lights blaze on, signaling to anyone passing by that this is a place of warmth and food and human activity, that you are welcome here, that you should stop in. The parking lot stretches out to your left, half full, the cars sitting patiently while their owners finish their meals inside. Some are big rounded sedans that will be considered classics decades from now but are just ordinary transportation at the moment. A few are older, pre-war models still in service, lovingly maintained by owners who cannot afford new. One is a motorcycle, chrome glinting under the parking lot lights, and you wonder again who rides it, what their story is, where they are heading when they leave. You can still taste the burger. That is the thing your mind keeps returning to. The char, the salt, the way the cheese melted into every crevice, the bright acid hit of the pickles cutting through the richness. It was not just fuel, not just calories consumed to keep your body running. It was an experience, a moment of pure sensory satisfaction, and your mouth waters slightly just thinking about it even though your stomach is completely full. The street is quiet at this hour, a few cars passing but not many, and you watch them go by, headlights sweeping across the pavement, taillights receding into the distance. The rhythm of a small town, a suburb, a neighborhood where things slow down after dinner, where the streets empty out as people retreat to their homes, their televisions, their evening routines. The restaurant sits at the edge of this quietness, one of the last outposts of public life still operating, still welcoming people, still glowing. You walk toward your car, or maybe you walk toward the bus stop, or maybe you just walk, not ready to go home yet, wanting to extend the evening a little further. Your steps make soft sounds on the pavement. Your stomach feels pleasantly full, not overstuffed but satisfied, the way you are supposed to feel after a good meal. You realize you are content, a simple, uncomplicated contentment that comes from having a basic need met well, from eating food that tasted good, from spending an hour in a place that felt welcoming. The smell of the restaurant clings to your clothes, grease and coffee and a hint of smoke, and you do not mind. It is the smell of the place, the smell of the experience, and it will fade by tomorrow, but for now it is a reminder, a souvenir you carry with you. Your fingers still feel slightly greasy despite wiping them with napkins, and you rub your thumb and fingers together, feeling the slickness, the tactile memory of eating fries with your hands. Behind you, through the plate glass windows, you can see people still inside, the counterman moving behind the counter, the waitress carrying plates, a family sliding into a booth. Life continuing, the restaurant still operating, still serving, still being the thing it is designed to be. You were part of that for a little while, and now you're outside looking in, and that shift in perspective makes you appreciate what you just experienced, makes you grateful for it. The neon buzzes, the air cools, the night deepens from blue to purple to black, and you stand there on the sidewalk full and satisfied, reluctant to leave but knowing you will, carrying with you the taste and smell and feeling of a 1950s burger joint, a place that will not last forever but that exists right now, perfectly, exactly as it should be. You take one last look. The pink and blue neon reflects in a puddle on the pavement. Someone inside laughs. The jukebox plays a song you cannot quite hear but can almost make out. Then you turn and walk into the evening, the restaurant behind you, the memory settling in, already becoming part of the collection of moments that define your life, already becoming something you will remember. So tonight, as you settle deeper into your blankets, let's take a breath and remember what we just walked through together. A glass door that chimed when you opened it. A counter lined with chrome stools that squeaked when you spun them. A burger made by hand, a Coke mixed at the fountain, fries cut fresh that morning, a waitress who smiled because she meant it, a cook who knew his grill the way a pianist knows the keys, a jukebox glowing in the corner, playing songs that made the whole room feel a little more alive. These were ordinary moments in ordinary places, lived by ordinary people who did not know they were creating memories worth holding on to. They just showed up. They did their work. They served food and made change and wiped down tables and went home tired. They did not think of themselves as living in a special time. They were simply living, one shift at a time, one burger at a time, one customer at a time. But there was care in what they did. There was attention. There was a quiet dignity in showing up every day and doing the work well, in knowing the regulars by name, in making a burger the right way even when no one was watching. That care mattered. It still matters. Maybe you cannot step into a 1950s burger joint anymore. Maybe that world is gone, replaced by something faster and more efficient and less human. But you can carry something forward. You can slow down. You can notice the person serving you. You can take the time to make something by hand. You can sit at a counter instead of eating in your car. You can be present, just for a moment, in the simple act of eating food that someone made for you. History is not always grand. Sometimes it is just a Tuesday evening and a cheeseburger and the way the light comes through the window at exactly the right angle. Sometimes it is the smell of coffee and grilled onions. Sometimes it is a waitress who remembers how you take your Coke. And that is enough. That has always been enough. So rest easy tonight. Let the hum of that restaurant carry you gently towards sleep. Let the warmth of it settle around you like a blanket. And know that somewhere, in memory, the neon still glows, the jukebox still plays, and the door is always open. Good night.